Most people, because they do want to feel better than bad, they try to hold their beliefs and their desires in approximately the same place. In other words, oh, whatever you do, don't let your desire get out there too far ahead of your belief. That's just foolish, people would say to you. You must not let yourself want what you don't believe. And we say, well, it's one way of sort of managing the way you feel, but it doesn't work out very well because you really can't control the constant desires that are born out of the life experience that you're living. Those desires are rocketing out of you. As you are exploring contrast and knowing what you don't want, you know what you do want. And on many levels of your being, you are sending forth those vibrational requests or desires. So even though you sometimes try to not want something, you can't. You can't hold it back because it's going to come at you in another way and another way and another way. Your life is so rich with so much to chew on that your evolution is just constant. And in this time-space reality, it is more exaggerated than ever, ever, ever before. So this gathering is not at all about teaching you the impossible task of holding back your desires. It's all about bringing your chronic day-to-day thought patterning into closer alignment with the natural desires that your life has produced. You are source energy beings here in this physical body. You were source energy first, but even though a part of your consciousness is now fully focused into the personality that you know as you, there is a larger part of you who still remains non-physically focused. It's easier for you to accept that that part of you is a vibrational part of you because you have not figured out how to translate the non-physical into what you can see and hear and smell and taste and touch for the most part. So non-physical, it's easy for you once you accept that there is something, and how could you not? How could you look at your magnificent planet spinning in perfect proximity to other planets? Sun coming up every morning, food remaining constant on your planet. How could you not know there is something bigger than what's going on here on your planet? You're brilliant and you're magnificent, but you have not figured out how to scrape enough dirt together and launch another planet into orbit. It doesn't happen from your physical perspective. There is a bigger picture, and many of you accept it. You call it many different things. We call it source, but it is vibration. And it's easier for you to accept the source as vibration than it is in many cases to accept yourself as vibration. But we want to remind you that you are an extension of the vibration that is source, and you are primarily vibration also. So when you begin to ponder the notion that there is a non-physical vibrational part of you that is emanating a signal at all times, and here you are in your physical body, and if you are wisely wanting to feel good, you are finding vibrational resonance with that signal of source. Now you've got it all figured out. Now you've got life really going on. Because that means you accept that you are an extension of source energy, and that source energy is offering you constant, steady, pure, supreme, absolute, specific guidance. Guidance to you about where you are right here and now, in your thought, in your word, in your deed. So when you realize that you're getting this constant feedback in the form of emotion, and that the better you feel, the more aligned you are with source, and the worse you feel, the more out of alignment you are with source. We call it allowing of alignment, or resisting of alignment. When you are allowing this resonating blending of who you are with who you really are, you feel wonderful. And it's what all of you intended. You said, I'll go forth and I'll explore and I'll come to new conclusions about what I want. But as soon as I decide what it is I want, I will give my undivided attention to that signal that is being transmitted eternally from the source within me, and I will blend myself, feel myself, merge myself, align myself, not just with the source of who I am, but with all that source of who I am has become because of what I'm living here in this physical experience. When someone's rude to you, you ask for a nicer world. And the source within you knows it and bees it. When you're rude to someone, you ask for you to be nicer in the world. And the source within you knows it and bees it. When you're sick, the source within you becomes vibrationally weller than the source within you was before you got sick. In other words, every experience causes an expansion. So every emotion that you feel, no exception, is about whether you are keeping up with your expansion or not. There are a lot of people running around this physical planet who are ornerier than anything else. They are just overwhelmed and ornery, worried, fearful, fitful, not feeling all that good about where they are or about the way life is treating them. And we would like them to know that those fitful, ornery, worrisome feelings are simply their emotional guidance system letting them know that they have an opinion of their life, an opinion of their planet, an opinion of something that is not in sync with the opinion that the source within them has about the same thing. So many of our physical friends, when they hear us say something like that, say, well, the source within me must not be where I am, looking at what I'm looking at. Source within me must be oblivious to the reality of my current life experience. And we say, that would be correct. Because the source within you only holds focus upon what you have asked for. You see, in this vibrational frequency, where the better you feel, the higher the vibration, the worse you feel, the lower the vibration, when you know what you don't want, there's always a bounce to that wave. And by knowing really what you don't want, there's a really what you do want bounce to that wave. And that bounce to that wave is what source captures and holds as the standard of who you have become. So every time your life causes you to bounce into a new and improved place, the source within you becomes that and holds that as the standard which you now can feel your relationship to. That makes sense to you? So as you are realizing these few things, you were source energy before you came into this body, and the larger part of you still remains source energy even though you are in this body. And the larger part of you is eternally broadcasting a signal to you, specifically to you, to help you to know what your highest bounces have been, because the source within you always takes the highest bounce. That's why you never need to worry that if you or anyone tunes to the frequency of the source within you, that you will then become damaging to people or the world around you. It could not happen. You can't be in sync with that pure positive energy of source, of that which is the quintessential love, a love that humans have not even come close to expressing or identifying. When you realize that you are in vibrational alignment with that source energy, then we like to proclaim you in the vortex of attraction, in the vortex of creation, in the vortex where you are, for the time of your pure positive emotion, you are tuned in, tapped in, turned on, you are up to speed, vibrationally up to speed with all that you have become. And it is the best moment in time that you can find. When you find a moment in time where you have focused yourself into alignment, and therefore there is no resistance present in your vibration, you are soaring with the full energy stream that creates worlds. And under those conditions, you feel clarity, you feel confident, you feel sure, you feel love, you feel passion and eagerness and vitality and enthusiasm for life. That's who you are. That's how you felt when you came, and that's how you'll feel as you leave, and that's how we think you deserve to feel. Now, we don't think you should have to croak in order to release resistance. You will. When you croak, you will we try to be as disrespectful as death as we can be, since there isn't any. You are translating vibration, and that's why you see. And you are translating vibration, and that's why you hear. And that's why you smell and taste and touch. You are translating vibration. But you have another sensor that translates vibration more precisely than all of your other sensors put together.
But
when you leave this physical body and withdraw your attention from things that you're emotional guidance system you can feel that highest vibrational alignment. You will become the fullness of all that you are. You can feel when you are into the energy that is really who you are. When you are inside it. You don't have to have a physical vibration of it in order to do that. Because manifestation begins to come to give you evidence of your alignment, but because your emotions give you evidence of alignment and not. The better you feel, the more in vibrational sync you are. The animals know it. They move away from any experience that causes them to focus in a way that they are out of alignment. You call them instinctual, and that's a fine word, but they are vibrational interpreters of this emotional sense. And it might be fair to say that part of the reason that they are better at interpreting emotional vibration than humans is because they're not talking all the time. They're not using their words to cover stuff up. They are not communicating and trying to socialize in the way that humans do. That's an advantage they have. But they are also not the magnificent creator that human is. In other words, we have to really help you give yourself the benefit of the doubt when we say you are dissecting extraordinary contrast for the purpose of expanding desire. So because your desires are expanding more rapidly than any species ever, as your desires are expanding more rapidly, you need a keener sensor or awareness of your sensor in order to recognize where you are incrementally. A man said to us last week, I have diabetes. I've had it for a long time, he explained. And every day I prick my finger for the purpose of reading the meter to see where my blood sugars are. And later in our conversation, we pointed out that the reason that he does it every day is because he doesn't want it to get too far out of whack before he figures out it's out of whack. And so we propose a happiness pricker. In other words, wouldn't it be nice if you caught your misalignment in the early subtle stages before you go into a coma? Wouldn't it be nice if you had that much attention? In other words, he's wise enough to know he wants to stay in balance. By the time this workshop comes to a close, we think it would be really nice if you had decided that you're going to pay attention to where you are emotionally and that you're going to make that your number one priority. And rather than just accepting what is as a condition that you have no other option other than to observe, that you care so much about your happiness indicator that you choose the thoughts based upon alignment. In other words, this man does not choose the food because of the way it tastes. He chooses the food that he eats because of the indicator that he's checking. And we think it would be a really good idea if you would choose the thoughts you think because of the indicator it will give back to you, not just because it's something that's there. The squeaky wheel gets the oil, and it also gets your attention, and it also takes you out of the vortex over and over and over and over again. And your excuse is, but Abraham, it's true. And we say, so what? There are a lot of things that are true that you don't want to include in your vibration and create in your experience. So that's really not a good indicator, just because something's true, that you would give your attention to it. The indicator is, how does it feel when I think about it? And is there a way that I can think about it that feels better to me? And if there isn't a way that I can think about that feels better to me, then I'll think about something else that does feel better to me. And you go along with that so far. You say, well, I like that. I can guide my thoughts to a certain extent, but there are these hot buttons in my life. There are those issues, these people that push my buttons. And we say, really, nobody has access to your buttons but you. Really, nobody does.